From a station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, the weekend is here and not far behind are the coldest temperatures of the season. Is your house ready so you won't be left shivering? And get ready to go exploring with Dora and Diego in a way that makes it more enjoyable and understandable for many kids who don't speak English. Chris?
Topping our lineup as vaccinations continue in nursing homes, it is bringing up questions about consent. What you need to set up to make sure your loved one is getting the care they want. And privacy experts say millions of images collected by photo sharing apps are fueling AI surveillance, the new way to check if your photo is being used. Well, home will be an important word to listen for when you're watching the Super Bowl this weekend. How that word will be helping people get some much needed repairs.
Right now, we are loving ourselves some sunshine breaking out there across parts of central Indiana. Yeah, it's certainly on the chilly side, and it's going to get quite a bit colder. Now, we've had a few snow showers and flurries, especially from Indy north today, but you can see that area is kind of shrinking in coverage here. We've got a few snow showers and flurries around Anderson, Alexandria, into Muncie as well, but we're not really expecting any accumulations here, maybe just a light dusting out there. Our wind chills, that's something we got to talk about, and we're going to talk about a lot over the next several days. It feels like 17 right now in Lafayette, just 10 for the wind chill in Peru, and it feels like 20 in the city. Actual temperature right at the freezing mark, 32 degrees. Unfortunately, we need to enjoy that while we can. We look back to the north and west. There's the real cold stuff that is coming our way. Temperatures down to 10 in Minneapolis and also back there in the Dakotas. And as we look at that forecast the next several days right through the weekend, we are well below average. The average high, it's climbing now this time of year at 38. We are not going to be anywhere near that, with highs only in the teens and 20s as we go through much of the extended forecast. This evening as you head out there, temperatures will be in the 20s. Going to feel like the teens, though, as we keep that west breeze going around 15.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Well, is your home ready for those upcoming bitter cold temperatures? WRTV's Kelsey Anderson shows us how you can get your house ready for this extreme cold.
Well, when temperatures this cold are starting to roll in, we want to make sure that we don't go without heat. And so you want to make sure that this big guy continues to work throughout those frigid temperatures. And experts say the first thing you want to do is check that air filter and make sure it's clean and change it if you need to. Along with that, Chad Langdon with 1 Hour Heating and Air says you should walk around your house and make sure no registers or grills are blocked. That way, that warm air can flow smoothly throughout the house. And if you do lose heat, not only will you be freezing, but there's potential for more problems, like your pipes possibly freezing. If something does go wrong, Langdon says they are ready to help.
We do operate 24/7, and we have people ready to run calls pretty much any time.
Now, if you are someone who likes your house on the cooler side, that's okay. But experts say that your heat should be set to at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit. That way it can work properly and keep the inside of your house warm. Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
The Defense Production Act is also in play now to speed up making supplies for vaccines and other pandemic needs. The act will allow Pfizer to have priority in getting the equipment it needs to make more vaccine. It will also help boost 6 different makers of at-home and point-of-care COVID tests. The goal is to have 60 million tests by the end of summer, and the U.S. will boost its production of surgical protective gloves to about 1 billion a month by the end of the year. Now, there's no immediate end in sight for the chaos that this pandemic has caused in the court system. Across the country, criminal courts are either virtual, delayed, or on hold indefinitely. 8 states and the District of Columbia have statewide restrictions on jury trials until further notice. Now, our partners at Newsy dug further into this issue. In Chicago's Cook County, the second largest county in the country, there were between 700 and 1,000 trials held between April and October in 2017, 2018, and 2019. In 2020, there were only 47. Legal experts believe that these delays will cause more people to plead guilty, and they worry about those who they believe are innocent.
I had a young person who's accused of armed robbery, and it is a mistaken identity case for sure. You know, he was like, I just can't do this anymore. I just can't do this. And I was like, honey, you've got to hold on. You've got to hold on because, you know, we have good motions and, you know, we could win at trial. You just have to hold on. But he's so tired.
Now, for those still behind bars awaiting their trial dates, there is a very good chance they will end up serving their minimum sentences before they have a shot at proving their innocence. Now, for those lucky enough to be out of jail waiting on the trial, the court delay could still mean other longer-term consequences.
I'm out pre-trial and I'm trying to fight my case, and the system is not dismissing cases, it's not dropping cases, it's not closing cases. I am now under surveillance, right, and under the system's watch for some indefinite amount of time.
The American Bar Association also wrote about work-at-home challenges for lawyers, like maintaining client confidentiality with family or roommates in close living quarters. Now, ahead in our lineup, as vaccinations continue in nursing homes, you want to make sure your loved one's wishes of getting the shot or not getting the shot are granted. Well, you need to set up to make sure that happens. People in long-term care facilities remain top priority for the COVID vaccine, and it's bringing up questions about consent.
There's questions of capacity, of whether they have capacity to consent to something like a medical procedure like a vaccination.
Christopher Berry is a certified elder law attorney. He says, pandemic or not, the most important thing people with a loved one in a care facility can do is establish a medical power of attorney.
This is where we appoint someone to make medical decisions. Those medical decisions could be whether to get the COVID vaccination or not. That loved one that's appointed that power of attorney, they're really now the advocate on behalf of the person.
Now, these legal documents allow adult children to be involved in their parents' health and make medical decisions for them, something useful in an emergency or urgent situation.
Maybe we include language to say whether we get permission to be on a ventilator or not, or to get a COVID vaccination or not. The more specific you are, typically the better off that document is, because that's going to be your rule book that if someone gives you a hard time, you can point to where specifically it says what you're trying to do.
Now, he says that the documents are not thorough or specific enough, the family could end up being bound to state rules on the issue. A medical power of attorney is one of three things that Barry thinks are key for those with a loved one in a care facility. Now, the second is a financial power of attorney, those who make the financial decisions on behalf of the person who is in that facility. The third, a HIPAA authorization that says who can access the person's medical information. Barry says it costs less than $1,000 to put together all three, and he stresses it is important to make sure that you are working with a certified elder law attorney. All right, we do have more to get to in our lineup, and you may not realize how your online photos are potentially being used without your permission. We're going to show you the new way to check. Researchers have been quiet heroes during this pandemic as they stay focused on protecting us all. They're the latest group that we're talking to in our ongoing series where we ask people the simple question, how are you doing? They tell Dan Grossman there is a lot for us all to be positive about.
With so much about COVID consuming our attention,
I have grown children in their 20s, and they all moved back into the house for about 6 months.
It can be easy to forget that the people tasked with protecting us from it
I actually did my first snowshoeing.
lead very similar lives to ours.
We've been able to do quite well.
For researcher Bruce Zetter, it's an important perspective as it grounds him when things at work don't go as well.
Most laboratories doing research, whether they're in hospitals or universities or companies, I would say they lost maybe a third of their productivity over the past year.
Perspective. Bruce could lament the fact that it's made things more difficult, but he and others choose to celebrate the fact that despite the drawbacks, a vaccine that usually takes years to create was developed in mere months.
There's a lot to be very positive about.
Dr. Brenda Hogue is a COVID researcher at Arizona State University.
Overall, the virus still seems to be pretty stable.
We first caught up with her in October when news of a vaccine first broke and wanted to check back in.
Hi, Dan.
Hey, Dr. Hogue, how are you? It's been a little while.
I'm good.
She says since then, the applications of mRNA, the fact that a vaccine has been distributed to millions, and COVID levels are going down because of it, are all great strides.
With all things taken into consideration, how would you say you're doing?
But ask her that question, and she'll deflect, instead looking at her team of researchers and the work yet to be done.
A lot of people are working very hard to try to answer some of the questions that need to be answered.
They are ordinary people doing some of the most extraordinary work of our time.
And of course, we hope that we're going to be able to develop vaccines that will work against the new variants.
And until that job is done, that's where their attentions will lie.
There are a lot of good, actually interesting and exciting questions to still be addressed.
I'm Dan Grossman.
All right, Dan, thank you. Now, the newest iPhone could actually be a health risk for people with certain heart conditions. So listen to this. Cardiologists discovered that batteries and magnets inside the iPhone 12 and MagSafe chargers put out electromagnetic waves that could interfere with a defibrillator or a pacemaker. They encourage people to keep those products at least 6 inches away from the chest area. Now, Apple's published a warning on its website saying the iPhone 12 does have more magnets than other models, but they are not expected to pose a greater risk. The FDA is planning a rapid review process for booster shots for coronavirus variants. Now, this would speed up the turnaround of the booster shot. If boosters are needed, the FDA will not require the same type of large trials that were required for emergency use. The process will still likely require safety information as well as a review by an expert committee. Now, many of us haven't seen our extended family for months. Vaccines are offering some hope to be able to see friends and family again, but the big question is when. Dr. Gallet Alter, a doctor involved in COVID-19 research, tells us that there's really no straight answer to that we could technically see them now as long as obviously we wear masks, social distance. But even after everyone gets vaccinated, it could be a while before the CDC approves larger gatherings and eases other guidelines.
Indianapolis Animal Care Services hopes you'll show some love to pets in need this month. IACS is waiving adoption fees all through February. If adding a pet to your home is not right for you, you can also support the shelter by donating to the Friends of Indianapolis Animal Care Services Foundation. For more info, go to friendsofindiacs.org. Dora and Diego are making a return visit to the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, but this time around the adventure is bilingual. Dora and Diego Let's Explore can take children and families on adventures in both English and Spanish. The Children's Museum built and debuted this exhibit a decade ago and has toured the country since then. Now it's back and updated to make it bilingual by adding special interpreter-led programming in Spanish and English at specific times each week. Labels on the exhibit are in both languages too.
We're really excited to be able to bring different cultures and talk about how kids live different lives with their families. And this is an opportunity to talk about different languages. And so we're excited about that.
The exhibit opens tomorrow and runs through July 25th. You can see it for free if you happen to go to the museum on President's Day, Monday, February 15th. Admission is free that day, but you still need to get a free ticket at childrensmuseum.org. Capacity is limited due to COVID-19, so log on and get your tickets soon. Kyle.
But some indoor activities. Good idea here the next couple of days.
You're gonna need them.
Yes, we've got some sunshine though. It looks like a beautiful sunset as we get ready to close out this week across central Indiana. Make sure you put a little bit of that salt down though if you haven't already, especially on the driveways and those sidewalks, as we'll have delivery people, coming through here. Make sure that it's nice and safe for them because we're not going to be melting any of that standing water that's now ice across central Indiana anytime soon. 28 will be the high on Saturday. Late in the day, we'll get some snow showers in here. Then Sunday, even colder air moving in with a temperature of just 17 for that afternoon high. Now, we're going to start off in the teens tomorrow morning. We will have some of that sunshine around at 8 a.m. 14 degrees though, so it will be cold. We'll see those clouds increasing as we go through the day, but not expecting any snow here as we go into the early evening hours with temperatures that only make their way into the middle and upper 20s. Here's a look at TrueCast though. 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, you start to see some of that snow shower activity moving through, and it will move through pretty quickly. We're talking about 5-7 hour time frame here of some snow. By 9 o'clock tomorrow evening, light to at times moderate snow that will be falling, and it will be of that lighter variety as far as it's not going to be the heavy wet snow that we had last weekend with temperatures a little bit colder. Midnight tomorrow night, still dealing with some of that snow, but then you can see there during the overnight hours, it will be moving out, dropping about an inch to maybe 3 inches of snowfall across pretty much all of the Hoosier State. Following that will be the very cold air. Yeah, it's going to get even colder here with temperatures down into the single digits, close to zero. Lafayette and Kokomo by Sunday morning. And that wind chill will actually start off Sunday below zero, only getting into the single digits as we go into the afternoon. Look at that 7-day planning forecast. Another chance for some snow showers here on Monday, a high of 29 there. We will keep those highs lower to middle 20s and lows back in the single digits next week. Chris?
Many of us may be familiar with the auto tag feature on Facebook. You post a picture and the platform can identify who's in the picture using facial recognition. But privacy experts say millions of images collected online by photo sharing apps are fueling artificially intelligent surveillance. Usher Qureshi shows us a tool to find out if your images have been harvested from certain sites.
The day after the siege on Capitol Hill, facial recognition use spiked. Reportedly, the FBI and local law enforcement used the technology to identify rioters.
This is a technology that enhances the abilities of police officers to the degree of almost superheroes.
Liz O'Sullivan is the director of the Surveillance Technology Oversight Project, or STOP, a New York-based civil rights and privacy group.
Over the summer, we saw protests over racial justice in the form of the Black Lives Matter protests, and FBI agents were able to identify people based off of other artifacts that they were leaving online, including articles of clothing that they had purchased on online retailers like Etsy.
This week, researchers at STOP launched Exposing.ai, a new facial recognition detection site. It allows you to match images from the online photo sharing site Flickr and see whether your photos have been compromised.
Flickr, while they were under Yahoo, created a database of more than 100 million different photos that had been hosted on Flickr under a Creative Commons license. And they used this as a starter database for artificial intelligence.
Those databases have been used by researchers, law enforcement, and governments to enhance biometric identification technology.
In fact, some of these databases and some of these data sets have been used by Chinese companies and are slightly and in some ways implicated to the human rights violations and the ongoing genocide of the Uyghur Muslims.
O'Sullivan says most people don't even realize they're contributing to the AI learning.
Artificial intelligence researchers and developers are so starved for new data sources that they often resort to some unsavory practices, some of which involve scraping the internet, regardless of the terms of service that may exist to protect your privacy there.
In some cases, it is against the law. Facebook is set to pay out $650 million in a landmark class action settlement to about 7 million of its users in Illinois for allegedly violating the state's strict biometric privacy law. Facebook denies it violated any law.
Facebook has elected for now not to sell their facial recognition tool to police officers or to the military or to the Chinese government. But there's absolutely nothing stopping them from doing it.
On Wednesday, Clearview AI, a controversial startup, was found to have violated Canadian law when it collected highly sensitive biometric information without the knowledge or consent of individuals, engaging in what the government investigation deemed to be illegal mass surveillance. The tech company also faces multiple privacy lawsuits here in the U.S. for scraping billions of photos from social media and other public sites used by law enforcement.
People were arrested and charged with crimes that they did not commit because some machine told the officers that they were the ones behind it.
O'Sullivan says it's high time that companies, governments, and researchers are held to account. She says people deserve to have more control over their privacy, data, and images. In Chicago, I'm Usher Qureshi reporting.
All right, Usher, thank you. Now, to check if your images, specifically from Flickr, have been compromised, go to Exposing.ai. There you can use your username, photo URL, or hashtag to see if your photos were used to build facial recognition. The tool creators say your search data will be deleted within 24 hours and none of it is sold or shared. Now, finally in our lineup, home. That will be an important word to listen for when you're watching the Super Bowl this weekend. How that word will be helping people get some much needed repairs. Well, you'll want to specifically pay attention to every time you hear the word home in commercials during the big game on Sunday. Now, for each mention, Lowe's is going to donate to the nonprofit Rebuilding Together. Lowe's will also donate another $100,000 to projects in the city of the team, whoever wins, Tampa or Kansas City. Rebuilding Together has been doing this kickoff to rebuild event for 26 years in Super Bowl cities, including 30 homes in the Tampa area this year.
Also being a veteran, you know, I saw it as like, don't give it back to me as I gave to my country. So that's why I saw it as, you know, a good thing.
Now that means long time needed repairs for the Jenkins family after a hurricane, like a new roof, water, mold damage, and its cleanup is especially important since Dad Jody and his son, they both have asthma. Rebuilding Together helps veterans, those in need, and focuses on repairs that improve people's health, something that is more than just a physical improvement.
That also psychologically takes a toll on the parents, which in turn runs onto the kids. So I think a healthy home also that's, built nice and also, in this case, a roof being done, it helps the house holistically, psychologically, and also mentally as well.
Rebuilding Together also relies on volunteers to help repair homes, but with the pandemic, that has been a challenge, making partnerships like the one with Lowe's and donations are even more critical, they say. Now, women have been hit much harder when it comes to losing jobs during the pandemic than men. On Monday, what experts say is behind this and the call that they are making to stop women being disproportionately affected.
Cold is really going to be the weather word here over the next week to 2 weeks here across central Indiana. We got a temperature 28 tomorrow afternoon, then tomorrow evening and night. We'll see about 1 to 3 inches of snow that will come through. That brings in another shot of some Arctic air with highs only in the teens there on Sunday. And it looks like highs are in the teens to 20s, not only through the end of the forecast there, but right through Valentine's Day.